Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Psychology of Business podcast. My name is Brandon Griffin, and today we have a very exciting interview with Mr. Ethan Jensen, CEO of The Cage. Welcome to the studio, Ethan.
Dude, happy to be on. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be fun.
So, growing up, I lived in Pleasant Grove, Utah, and there's this kid who moved in from Colorado when I was younger, and it was Ethan Jensen, and we were friends through end of elementary school, junior high, high school. He moved away right before our senior year, and we stayed in a little bit of contact through social media, through LinkedIn, stuff like that. And we've always kind of been friends, but we've kind of lost contact. Well, he started a new business called The Cage, and I'll let him talk about it a little bit more. But through this and through, just time in our lives kind of reconnecting, I reached out to him and I said, hey, let's catch up, let's talk about your business, talk about everything you're doing. And this is why we're doing the interview today. So it's good on my part to learn about you, to learn about an entrepreneur who's being successful, but also to reconnect with one of my childhood friends. So Ethan, do you want to give us a little bit of background about who you are, what companies, if I don't know if that's singular or plural, you run, and just a little bit of background on who you are?
Yeah. Dude, it feels like it was not that long ago that I moved to Pleasant Grove, but like looking back on it now, it's been like 12 years or something like that. Yeah, I moved in. I think I had a mohawk when I moved in too. That was the rugrat of the neighborhood.
Mhm,
People were
mhm.
wondering who this guy who wears tank tops and has a mohawk was, and I don't think I made a lot of friends with a lot of the parents, but yeah, Brandon was still nice to me, so that's good. Um, but yeah, I moved twice in high school. I moved in my freshman year, and then I moved out my junior year, like the beginning of my junior year, because my parents hated me. But no, I'm just kidding. They love me very much, but obviously moving twice in high school isn't ideal. But yeah, I'm a pretty new entrepreneur, successful. That's probably to the eye of the beholder. Successful to some, not as successful to others. Um, but right now, my biggest and my main project is The Cage, which is a baseball entertainment venue here in Utah. We opened up our first location about 9 months ago in West Valley, right around from the Maverick Center. If you are a Utah listener, and you know where that's at. Uh, and it's basically just like a Topgolf for baseball. It's kind of like if a golf simulator and a baseball field kind of had a baby and made it entertainment based kind of thing. So we basically have like these batting cages. We have three of them that have a pitching machine behind a giant screen. So a ball comes out of the screen, you hit it into the screen, and then it interacts with the baseball, kind of like a golf simulator. And you can play a bunch of different game modes on it. So there's like a home run derby mode, a point based game mode, team battle, which is just like a game. There's even a throwing mode that we incorporated the last little bit. It's super cool, it's super fun, and it's been my main project, my baby for the last year or so, and it's been cool to see it come to fruition. And then I am in the process of launching another e-commerce brand called Apex Grip Spray, which is like if you've ever played basketball at a rec court, it's just like it's always dusty, you're always slipping, huge risk for injury. Basically, this is a spray that acts as like an adhesive, and it helps restore, clean, and keep your shoes grippy even on dusty surfaces. So it helps repel that dust away, just so you don't have to keep spitting on the floor or licking your shoes and doing the whole lick your hand, put it on your shoe. You do that one too many times, you get a weird amount of dust in your mouth. It's kind of disgusting. So I'm trying to get rid of that problem, and so I've started that. That should be launched on Amazon in the next like month or so. So do have my hands in a couple different projects, but my main one is The Cage.
That's awesome. And before we talk about Apex, I want to talk about Topgolf. So my claim to fame, I won state championship baseball in fourth grade. So I'm set. I'm good. I was on the Giants. It was great. But I started golfing and it kind of messed up my baseball swing. So by the time, I got to high school, I was kind of done with baseball. I kept playing rec league. But with The Cage, is this primarily for people who just want to have fun, with their friends in the evening? Is this used for, people in the off season if they want to practice? What primarily clientele are you going after?
Yeah, it's purely more entertainment based. I would say, like, as far as our current customer base and what we're seeing come in, it's a lot of little leaguers. So it's a lot of kids that, maybe they train a lot and they just want something to be a little more fun and lighthearted. We do a lot of like birthday parties for little leaguers, little league teams, just families that have a little leaguer in there that they found us on TikTok and were like, "Mom, I need to go here." That's been a huge thing for us. But yeah, you can train here. You can like because the simulation has a lot of good feedback as far as like exit velocity and stuff like that, and we have ways to track like your swing path and your launch angle and stuff like that if you wanted to get some more advanced training in there. But we're purely hitting just an entertainment niche there. The idea is that like it's funny when Topgolf defines their customer base. They want it says 18 to 65, which you're like, that's not really a demographic, right? That's not, you know. So their biggest thing is they want to attract at least 60% non-golfers is like their customer demographic. They want people that say, "Hey, I'm not a golfer, but I go to Topgolf." And we're kind of the baseball version of that. "Hey, I'm not a baseball player, but I go hit at the cage." Like that's kind of where I think we win. If we can get a similar percentage as far as non-golfers and non-baseball players at the cage, I think we're winning.
And how fast is the pitching speed? So for reference, like the fastest people on earth, like Major League Baseball players, if you're amazing, you can top out, 100, 102, 103, miles per hour. But how fast is the ball coming in? And how does that compare to, like a regular batting cage? Do you have different speeds? Do you have like
Yeah.
expert mode, which is going faster? Do you have super slow, kind of slow pitch?
Yeah, so it defaults soft toss, right? Because again, the whole goal is to make baseball more accessible, more fun, and just allow anybody to be able to hit, and we do that, which has been awesome. Um, but it defaults. So the pitching machine's 15 feet away from home plate. So you got to factor all that in when you're going into speeds and stuff like that, because a 50-mile-an-hour fastball from 10 feet away and a 50-mile-an-hour fastball from 60 feet away is completely different, right? So obviously, like in the pros, they're pitching from 60 feet, 6 inches, right? That's what they do in high school, college, and the pros. So with the pitching machine being 15 feet away, the default setting is 30 miles an hour. Now, I've played a lot of baseball and I'm actually in an adult rec league right now. So I've been still playing and having fun with it. I would say that 30 miles an hour is very similar to like when the pros like throw a position player out in the game when it's just not a good game. It's basically like a mercy rule situation. They throw a position player out there and it'll show that the position player is throwing like 50 miles an hour and it just looks like a cheese ball, and I would say it probably is close to that. As far as the simulation goes. So that's our slowest is like if you're throwing it 60 feet, 6 inches, it'd probably come in at about 50. But then it gets exponentially quicker, the faster you get. So now like it goes up to 45 miles an hour. That's the limit that we've set on it. But 45 miles an hour from 15 feet away, I don't know the math on it, but I think it'd probably simulate something close to like 85-ish. So it can get a lot more difficult. It does only throw you strikes. Like we're only throwing pitches right down the middle. We have it set so it only is just throwing you belt high fastballs. So it if you have your foot down in time, you can hit anything. But it is fun to see some rookie ball players come in and see them like put the machine up and they just can't hit it, which is funny.
Well, and people probably compare you to Topgolf all the time, but as someone who, hasn't picked up a baseball bat in years, that's something I could see myself being interested in, just either a work event or doing something fun with my family, hitting balls for an hour, that's something I would be interested in. But I want to move backwards in time just a little bit away from the actual day-to-day operations of what the cage looks like to how this idea got started. So like you said, you're playing rec league baseball or adult league baseball right now. When we grew up, we'd always go play basketball. We'd, do a lot of that stuff. I know you've always been involved with sports. So how did you, one, get this idea? And two, did you have this idea for a long time? Did you slowly build up to do it? Or is there kind of one day where you said, I'm going all in starting the cage? Can you walk us kind of through where this idea came from?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So as far as like when the initial idea came in my head, I don't know if I totally remember it. I imagine I was probably at Topgolf, in high school or something, and me being the baseball obsessed guy that I was at Topgolf, and I was like, "There's got to be a way to make this baseball. Like, you could probably create some sort of like air tee system open it all out, have the kind of simulation aspect to it. Like there's got to be a way to do it. So I had it, and I kind of just imagined as I was going through school, like when I was going through, I went to Utah State University, did business school, got a marketing degree. While I was going through school, there would always be like these projects that were like, hey, either use a business that's already out there, or like think of what something you'd want to create and create a financial plan for it, create a marketing plan for it, so you have all these projects that they do on these either hypothetical, or you could like, use Spotify or something like a business, right? And I just always did it on this idea. Like I didn't know really that I wanted to be an entrepreneur or anything. I kind of imagined that someone would create something like this, and then I would just go and work for them or something like that. Uh, Try to be a marketer for something like that. Just be cool to be in sports, and especially something that I love so much. And um, I think eventually, um, you know, I had the idea for a while, and then by the time I graduated college, I had like this whole business plan. I had like a 150-page business plan about this hypothetical Topgolf for baseball. I even had a brand for it. Like I just had everything already set up, and I'd already been thinking about it for so long. And in complete honesty, like a lot of the stuff that led me to actually go and do it probably were a little bit more like extraneous, like personal things. Like uh, I kind of imagined maybe that I'd be like married by now, and like I got a sales job out of college, and I was kind of dating this girl, and I thought things were gonna go somewhere. They didn't, and then I feel like in some ways, because I wanted to be married but I wasn't married, I was like saying I'm gonna wait on certain things before I get married, because I'd love to do this, when I have a support next to me and stuff like that. But eventually you kind of just get to the point where like I'm sick of waiting. I just want to jump in, and you start doing stuff. And so like one of those things was traveling, but then the other thing was, going out and starting a business. And I had already planned all this thing out. I kind of decided, because I hated my sales job, that I wanted to sell my own product, not someone else's. And so I had a bunch of different ideas and these things, but then I realized I already had a business plan for this idea, and that was the one I was most passionate about. It wasn't going to make the most money out of all the projections that I had made for all these other businesses that I was going to start, but I was the one that I was most passionate about, and I was chasing life fulfillment at the time. I don't, money's great, but I want to be fulfilled by what I do, and that's what led me to start opening the cage.
That's awesome. So it got started by a broken heart.
Uh, you know, you, some people go to the gym, some people write music. I start a business.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. And I totally understand a lot of that. So when you started the business, were you saving $100 here, $1,000 there, or did you take out a loan? How did you actually get started at this? Because, some people start businesses and it's kind of like a side hustle day to day. They threw a couple bucks in here and there, do an hour or two, or is it kind of like, I'm taking out a loan. This is my full-time job. I'm just going to go 100% all in.
So I tried to start it as a side hustle when I first started. I tried to keep my sales job and just like do the 9 to 5, 5 to 9 thing with it. It just became a point where like I that was too much for me. Like that was just too much of a workload to try to like do both of those kind of things. So I got it prepared enough that it was like I have this so ready and prepared, and I have these different places of funding that I already have kind of set up um, to just launch this thing. I need to just spend more time doing it, and I knew I wasn't going to do it if I was going to just have it be my 5 to 9. So I quit my job and decided to launch this probably quite a bit earlier than I probably should have, but it was a better fit for my personality, because I'm one of those guys that when I'm focused on one thing, like I lock in and I can't leave a project unfinished kind of thing. So it felt like while I was still doing my sales stuff, like I'd get so locked in on those kind of things that putting my mind onto something else, just like it would give me a brain aneurysm, man. It was just not it. So I'm the type of guy that just like needs to have my whole heart in something. So I decided that it was best for me to just take a risk and say, hey, if I go hungry, it's just me. It's not like my wife and kids are going hungry. Like it's just me. And I think I'm okay with that. I think I can figure it out. And jumped out of it. And I did have quite a bit of money saved up. I did pretty well in the different sales that I did beforehand, but I wasn't. I mean, 25 years old. I wasn't racking it in, man. I kind of risked everything to put on this. Like I saw my savings account hit zero while we were building up and everything, and that's always a little bit frightening. You taking some debt and stuff like that, but uh, you know, biggest thing is just to persevere. Got funding from a couple different sources, uh, and got some help in other ways from friends and everything. So uh, it all ended up working out.
Awesome. And how long have you officially been open? When you decided to quit your SDR job, when you decided to drain your bank account, when you decided to actually go for it, when was that?
So that was May of 2024 that I quit and did everything. I thought I had everything lined up in my mind. I'm just a stubborn optimist, so I was probably in over my head a little bit. Didn't really know what was going on, anyways. But in my mind, I was like, okay, if we're gonna simplify what needs to get happen to go from absolutely nothing, an idea, to having the cage, let's just simplify it. The steps are: I need to get funding, I need to get a location, I need to build the cage, I need to get people to come. That's only 4 steps. Like, it
Yeah,
actually
that's
seems
hard
really
things.
easy. That actually seems like, I'm like, okay, well, like like when I like got down to it and I thought about it, I was like, it's just 4 steps. Like, I'm sure there's different, subsections of each step that I need to figure out, and it's not going to be as easy as I think. But I was like, I can do that in 2 months, you know. So we'll be open by August, like, and we'll have a whole winter under our belt. Winter's going to be a good popular place for this because Utah gets so cold. There's not really anything else to do. You get sick of bowling after a while. Um, but then it obviously took a lot longer than that to actually secure the funding that I had been promised by different sort of investors and banks and stuff like that. There was a lot more processes than I thought were there. So it took a summer of golfing pretty much every single day, um, and in the middle of that, just texting and emailing different sources of funding to actually get the funding that we needed, which we got in November. And then it took us another 3 months to build out um, after that. And then we opened this past February, like in the middle of the month. It was around Valentine's Day. So with it being November right now, it's pretty much, we pretty much just barely hit our 9-month mark.
That is awesome. Do you remember your first real customer? Because I'm sure you probably had family and friends and people who were there for a soft launch, whatever. But do you remember kind of the first real person you knew customer?
I do. I do. So yeah, we did a couple weeks of soft openings where we did a lot of testing. We were mostly testing out like lighting. We were testing out the settings on the machines to make sure that they were in a good spot. We were testing the durability of our screens and stuff like that. Um, Learned a lot, dude. I was working like 18-hour days at that time. I was pretty much sleeping at the cage. I bought a futon so that I could sleep at the cage when I needed to, because it just kind of got to be a lot, um, which was fun. And I also didn't know if I'd be able to afford employees. So for the first 2 months of the cage being open, I was the only employee. So I was working like 96 hours a week, actually being the front desk guy the whole time. And then obviously beyond that, I'm repairing things, I'm fixing things, I'm doing Six Sigma all over the place, just trying to figure out what can we automate in this process, what can we make quicker. But then we opened February 10th was the exact date. um, when we opened, we had 2 bookings that day, um, and those were both friends of mine. But then we had a walk-in come in at like 2 p.m. And he was like, "Hey, I actually was just walking in to see information on a birthday," and then he ended up booking all 3 bays for a later day, and I got him on for that. So then that was like a $300 party booking or whatever, and I was like, "Whoa," So we got that, and then at the first, so now we have this like training video that we have play when we go in. It's like 3 minutes long to train people on how to do it. It's kind of like if you like go to an escape room, like they tell you not to touch everything and whatnot, or a laser tag. So we have that now, but at the beginning, I was just doing it for every customer. I was just doing like a live training thing. And I don't remember the person's name, but I do remember the first customer came in and I did it, but I realized I touched the plate, which starts the game mode. It starts the people's time while I was doing the training video. So they like lost 2 minutes of their time. And the guy was like, yeah, we didn't care for that. And so, well, now we have the video, so it doesn't really matter anyways. But yeah, it was surreal. Like I still like when we get like a little league party coming in when they book all three bays and they're chilling for 2 hours and you get these kids just screaming and they're like, "Oh my gosh, Connor just hit a 400-foot bomb!" And they're freaking out. I just have to sit and watch. Like it makes my heart so warm, dude. I come into work every day thinking if 10-year-old Ethan would have seen this place, he would have thought it was a baseball paradise, dude. He couldn't believe that he made it, you know?
Hmm. That's awesome. And so you had that one guy walk in, kind of this miracle client, book a bunch of base for a kid's baseball party. How do you get most of your customers now? And do you feel like you have, your clientele, or do you feel like you're always scrambling to fill bays?
Um, yeah, so far it kind of has been running itself pretty well. I think when you have a desirable enough product, it kind of sells itself. Like I haven't had to put too much effort to be like, every once in a while I'll like send out an email thing to a bunch of high school coaches saying, "Hey, if you guys want to do like a high school event here, come ahead." Or I'll like email or do some scraping on LinkedIn to some corporations or like sales managers saying, "Hey, do your sales team here." But we haven't really needed to do that. People usually just book on their own time. We get a lot of phone calls just saying, "Hey, we want to book 3 bays for a corporate event, or we want to book 3 bays for a birthday party." Like a lot of it's just SEO stuff. There's not only a handful of batting cages in Salt Lake, anyways. And then when they see ours, our Google profile is really awesome. SEO has been good for us. Google has been huge. The biggest thing has been social media, I will say, as far as our marketing efforts go. I think describing or reading a copy of what the cage is can be hard. It's like in a situation like this where we're doing this podcast, right? I'm describing what it is, and I have to use so many words to like get you to know that, hey, there's a screen, there's some real baseballs, like it's actually throwing you pitches, it interacts, it's like this big virtual experience. But with like in a copy, on our website, it just says virtual batting cages, and everyone's like, what the frick does that mean, right? So a lot of times we find that it's a lot easier for people to buy into the idea if they can see it, right? So like social media is huge for us because they can see what it looks like. They see videos of people hitting into our screens and playing the game modes. They see, what the setup looks like as far as a party's concerned and stuff like that. So if you can get people to see it, that's been like the biggest key for us in getting clientele. But our second reel that we ever made on Instagram got like 3 million views or something like that. Um, and that was like November 20th. We posted that or something like that. It was like our first try. And then after that, it's been just smooth sailing as far as customers are concerned. Like it just hasn't been super hard for us to get people interested. And we get a lot of return customers too. I think at this point, been open for 9 months and we've had like, I think it was about 14% of our customer base is returning customers. With that probably increasing over time when you just have more time in between. So it seems like people like us a lot, and our Google reviews speak for themselves as well, which is been awesome. Sometimes you feel like when you create these marketing schemes of how awesome it can be on social media, that people will come and be a little bit disappointed. But the fact of the matter is people aren't, which has been awesome.
That's way awesome, because I remember when I was a kid, going to batting cage, I'd go to, do you remember Trafalgar? Do you remember that in Orem?
Yeah, dude, Boondocks, Trafalgar, those batting cages suck. Let's just be real.
Well, yeah, it's kind of part of not a theme park. What would you even call that? Like in a little amusement center, it's kind of,
Yeah.
the balls were like these super hard, heavy, almost like softballs. And I didn't want to bring my own bat because it would like get damaged. And I remember, it kind of just wasn't, it just kind of felt like a dirty, gross place. So it's kind of cool. One, that it's, kind of this high tech virtual batting cage is what you're doing. And it's something that I don't want to say revolutionized batting cages, but it just took something and, brought the tech, brought the cool, brought the clean, brought the neat, features into it. And that's why I think, kind of like what you said, it's a testament to how cool your idea is. You don't have to sell this to people. You just have to get it in front of the eyeballs and the idea will sell itself.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, I think, I mean, obviously I had the idea since high school or whatever, but I actually do remember in college, I wanted to take this softball player on a date who like played for the college softball team at Utah State. And I remember being like, oh, I want to take her to a batting cage. And then I realized like the two options I had for that were either to like go to Boondocks or infiltrate a little league facility. And either way, it's just a little too close to the kiddos, man. It's just a weird vibe. And so I've always like, even if it wasn't super high tech, just creating a batting cage that's just more like for entertainment, just like more chill was always kind of the goal. And obviously the tech makes it easier, but where I like being that happy medium right there, where it's like, man, I haven't hit you're 45 years old. Man, I haven't hit a baseball since I was 13. I would love to know what that feels like again. Like the World Series was so cool this year. I want to know what that feels. You're not you're not going to want to infiltrate a little league facility. And also, if you go into boondocks, like you said, those balls suck. Like, so I like, I do feel like there's a solution to a problem here with the cage that obviously has been bringing people a lot of joy, which has been awesome.
Totally. So obviously you have had some success, but looking back, 2 years from now when you really started to take this seriously, is there anything you would have done differently looking back?
I mean, there's a lot of things I think I'd have done a little bit differently as far as just the setup of this location. To be honest, it's something that I'm excited when it comes to expansion. That taking what we know now, tweaking it, making it better for the next one. If that makes sense, there's a lot of things here that I don't know if we'll be able to change at the current location. Uh, that it's gonna do well for itself here, but there's definitely opportunities to grow and make it better. There's a lot of things like with it that you just don't know what you don't know. And I think for me, I've been just more grateful for the mistakes that I've made and facing that, knowing that I failed sometimes and then being better, and looking back and on it. I don't know if there's a lot that I would change just because there's a lot that I didn't know, if that makes sense. And I'm grateful for the experiences that have given me the knowledge that I do now, so I that's an interesting question, but I would have a hard time saying anything specific there because I'm actually grateful for what I didn't know so that I could figure it out now.
hmm So I am a management professor, so rub shoulders with marketers a little bit. But a lot of what I teach, a lot of what I have to study, has to do with kind of interpersonal relationships. So obviously, you started out kind of on your own. There were people helping you, but day to day operations was you. Now that you've hired more and more employees, how's that been actually managing people and dealing with actual other humans in the workplace?
That's a great question. So my my we hired our first full-time employee just a couple months ago. He's just a good friend of mine named Sky. I actually roomed with him and we're like just best friends, and he's just one of the best marketers that I know. And when it came to I had a lot of people when I first before I even built the cage. I had a lot of I quit my job and I just announced on LinkedIn that I am the CEO of the cage, and it just didn't even exist yet. And I think a lot of that was to keep myself accountable to creating something. You know what I mean? I wanted to say, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm actually going to do it. And it's funny because it took 9 months for this idea to turn into an actual building. And I would get so many smug comments from just friends being like, "Hey, so how's the cage going?" And they're not thinking I'm actually doing it. And then one day it's open, and they're like, "Holy, he did it!" Like he did it, and I'm like, "Yeah, I've been working like." But I did have a bunch of friends when I just announced it say, "Hey, I think this is really cool. This idea that you're doing and stuff like that. Would you need any help or anything with it?" And I was at the point where I was like, any help, any sort of accountability would help me, you know. Um, so I took a small team of people that each had their own strengths, and I would use them as conciliants and stuff like that. And Sky was one of those, and he just kind of went above and beyond in a lot of different ways. And he's just so much better at some of the creative stuff than I am. I'm very logical and operationally based, and he's just so creative, and his mind is always thinking about, well, how do we make it sexy? And so having those two strengths come together was awesome, and we get along super well, and we're able to compartmentalize our relationship in a lot of ways as roommates, best friends, and business partners. That it just makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate him being on board. And then the other employees that I've hired are part-time employees. A lot of them are high school students. Um, my cousin lives in Salt Lake, and he was my first employee hired. He was in his senior year. He's on a mission now, an LDS mission. Uh, but he was my first employee hired, and then I hired 4 or 5 of his friends and stuff like that. And managing the high school students that do the front desk the easiest and funnest part of my job. Like, it's so fun for me to just be sitting on a random Monday and being like, how can I convince these kids to get me more Google reviews? And creating different incentives for that. And it's fun. They're like, honestly, some of these front desk guys, they become really good friends of mine. It's cool to see. I mean, I just love them, and I can tell that they work because they love and care about me, and they have fun doing it. And we've created a really fun environment with a bunch of different programs and stuff like that. So we could talk more about, if you have any more questions on that, I'm happy to talk more about that part. But that part is like one of the easier parts for me. I love working with those high school kids and getting them to work hard at the front desk.
Yeah. So I have more questions for you, but I want to switch gears a little bit. So let's say, in 5 years, if, you've sold or have more locations or whatever, 10 years, Apex takes off, or, whatever company you're working on at that time takes off. What is driving this? Where does your passion come from? Because a lot of people, myself included, I think, I'm someone who will watch a medical TV show. I'm like, dang, being a doctor sounds cool. Talking to you, I'm like, dang, being an entrepreneur sounds cool. Like a lot, I think I have some good ideas that, could be successful, but you're someone who's actually did it. So going, beyond the cage, what drives Ethan to do what he does and to try to be successful every day?
That's a good question. I was actually thinking about this a lot yesterday. I was just kind of sitting on my couch and I was contemplating some stuff, and um, because sometimes the cage can get a little overwhelming. Being an entrepreneur can be a little overwhelming. Like, I had a pretty big conversation with a potential partner yesterday, and I was really nervous for it, and I didn't know how it was going to work and how I was going to handle it and stuff like that. And there's definitely some things like, uh, we have some competitors in the space, and we have some people that are trying to replicate things that we're doing here, which is normal. When you have something good, it's going to happen. But it does cause me a little bit of anxiety, to see that kind of happen. And trying to at that point, when you have so much anxiety over what you do, you're like, then why am I doing this? Like, and I don't know. Like, I think for me, like, I've never been one that has, and it frustrates the crap out of my dad, but I've never been one that really cares a ton about money and stuff like that. Like, I just I want to be fulfilled. I want to be fulfilled in my life. And from what I can see and what I've experienced in my life is that I'm a lot more fulfilled through like relationships and experiences than I am through money or numbers or anything like that. And so for me, it's a lot of what I'm doing is I want to provide something awesome to people, and I want a chance to really grow and explore different relationships, and I want to provide experiences to people that they wouldn't normally have. Um, and so for me, it's all about how can I just feel more joy in my soul, and how can I have other people experience that kind of joy as well? I think that's why baseball became so natural to me. Like, baseball, unfortunately for me, broke my heart. But the reason why it broke my heart so much is because I loved it so much. And when I had my arm injury in high school, that kind of prohibited me from playing at a higher level than I wanted to play. I it broke my heart so much, but that also showed me how much I loved it and stuff like that, and I missed it all the time. And I feel like baseball sometimes gets this rap for being kind of slow or boring or whatnot. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, we need more people trying something awesome like this. And so if we have an awesome product that allows people to do it, then I'm building relationships with people, and I'm helping them have experiences. And I think that's really what my passion is, and how I found fulfillment in life. And that's the journey.
Hmm. That's awesome. Considering baseball specifically, I was going to watch, I can't remember if it was a Jazz game or maybe a BYU game, but I have YouTube TV, so I couldn't watch ESPN. There's that whole thing going on. So ESPN is, blacked out. That they're doing their contract negotiations. So I watched Game 7 of the World Series. And that was the only baseball game I watched all year. But that was the most entertaining baseball game ever. It was awesome. Living here in Illinois, but also since moving to Alabama, I've been exposed to a lot of MLB baseball. I've been to a Cubs game. I've been to a couple Cardinals games. I went to a Braves game through work, and it's a ton of fun. So even though baseball, a lot of people may think it's more boring, it's more slow. It's something ever since they introduced the pitch clock, a lot of stuff. It's been a lot of fun. So I can definitely see, your drive for people and relationships mixed with, baseball kind of having a resurgence. It's kind of this perfect storm for the cage.
I hope it can stay up. They're doing a new player agreement this off season, and there's just rumors of another strike, so the baseball season might start off kind of slow, but we're hoping that doesn't happen. The baseball is like Shohei Ohtani has got to be the most exciting thing to happen in baseball ever. And if you're not in tune with that, then I don't know where you're at, man. But yeah, I think you're
Didn't he
right.
just win
Baseball's in a
his
really
like
good spot.
third out of the fourth MVP, like three
So
of
he
the last
just won
four
his
years?
Yeah, so he's won 3 of the last 4, but he's won 4 total MVP awards. And he's gonna keep winning it every year if he pitches and hits.
Awesome. So you have the cage, you have Apex. We can save that for another time when it, launches and everything that goes on with that. But if people are interested in connecting with you, if people are interested in the cage, how do they do that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, obviously you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not great on LinkedIn, to be honest. I would probably go Instagram first. So like my Instagram handle is EP3 Jensen. You can go follow me. I've kind of dabbled into some content creation recently. So a lot of that's backed by the cage and whatnot, but I think there's a lot of things that are exciting about that and are entertaining to people. So I've started doing some of that. And then the cage baseball is the handle for the Instagram. It's just cage baseball, no underscore, just the way that it is. We're also on TikTok. I'm just learning TikTok right now, so but the handles are all the same: EP3 Jensen and Cage Baseball.
That's awesome. And what else? Don't you have a podcast? I think I've seen you talking baseball with or sports with your brother. Don't you have some other stuff you do?
Yeah, the podcast's been a little slow, to be honest. It's been hard
I
to
can relate to that. I can relate to that.
it's sometimes it's like it's the editing and stuff like that. I don't know. I would like to do more of that podcasting stuff and everything. I didn't see a ton of fruit from that. Like I just didn't. It didn't seem to. It seems like a podcast is something that you probably do after you become famous, if that makes sense. Like it's just too easy to start a podcast in some ways. So I feel like you got to have some sort of following beforehand. That's why like New Heights and stuff like that do so well, with like Travis and Jason and stuff like that. It's usually the people following someone who's already famous. There's a lot of clip farming with that. So like part of me was like, I can either record a whole podcast or I can create a clip that's probably going to get a lot more views anyways of me just talking about sports. And so on my TikTok and through this content creation that I'm doing now, I think I'm going to that's what I'm going to do. Like I think I'm not doing the podcast anymore. It just took too much time. It wasn't getting any traction. So I think we're done with that. But I think I'm going to put clips on my Instagram, my TikTok of me talking about sports the way that I did on my podcast and just do it as clips instead of doing a whole podcast. So I wouldn't. I mean, you guys can go check it out. It's called the Sports Uncaged podcast. It was supposed to be kind of in collaboration with the Cage kind of thing, but I don't know if we're doing any more of those. You can go check out what we did talk about, but they're not as relevant now.
Mhm. I can definitely relate to that. So my YouTube channel, as of right now, what is it, November 2025? My top videos, I think I've one that has like over 100,000 views. It's on a very specific like business simulation called CapSim, and all of my best videos are on like Excel and Word and Prolific and Qualtrics, all that like software, like really specific SEO stuff. But the
Mm-hmm.
podcast has been slow. So I've talked to some really cool people, but unless you are talking about something super specific that people are interested in, it's really hard to get traction. So I can definitely understand that. But
Yeah, yeah, we got asked to be on like a network at one point, like me and my brother. But it was like I checked it out, and it was like all these podcasts that had like 1,000 views or whatnot, and I don't know. I think you have to do something like that. You'd probably have to get some sort of network going for that to work, or of course, just be a big enough influencer and face yourself that can pan out. But I don't know. I wasn't even listening to my own podcast, man. I'm too locked in on Bill Simmons and Barstool that like I was like, why would anybody listen to me anyways? These Barstool guys are hilarious. Like, so
That's awesome. Well, it was really great talking to you about the cage. Great kind of connecting to you. We actually tried to film this last week and just my internet went out and I tried filming it in the church parking lot. Just didn't work. And, we were having issues, but it's great to hear about everything you're doing with the cage. For those of you who are listening, all my many, many viewers, like just what we were talking about the last couple of minutes. Next time you are in the Salt Lake City area, go to the cage. So cagebaseball.com. Hit up my guy, Ethan Jensen. He's going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff with the cage. Something we didn't talk about is he's going to be the general manager of the Colorado Rockies within the next X amount of years. I think that's in your LinkedIn bio or something, just going along with your baseball stuff. But it's been great talking to you. It's been great hearing from you. One last thing, if someone wants to start a business and they're terrified to do it, what is your, 30-second pitch to them to actually send it?
yeah, something I've thought about a lot is that I don't really feel any more capable or, I don't feel like I have anything that's outlandishly better than a lot of other people out there. I think that as far as capability goes, I'm pretty medium. As far as courage goes, I'm above average. And so it's more about your courage than it is about your capability.
That's awesome. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to the Psychology of Business podcast. Ethan, thank you so much for coming on, talking about the cage, talking about everything that you're doing. Come back in a year. Let's talk about, all the different locations that have opened up. Let's talk about Apex and let's talk about the next thing you're working on.
All right. Sounds good, man. I'm always open for a chat.
Awesome. All right, everyone, you have a great day. Happy learning. I'll see you next time.